ensure that those services are affordable to the customer. And the solution to those two twin problems somehow happens to be exactly leveraging on technology. And leveraging on technology will not only make you access your customers in the current environment in a more effective way, but also the cost of accessing that customer is much more affordable. And therefore, I think going forward, I'm going to see a lot of leveraging on technology, partnerships with fintechs, trying to ensure that we move away from the physical presence. We see less of branch networks opening up, but more of enabling customers access their services through online platforms. And therefore, the way forward, I see a lot of partnerships between the existing physical infrastructure and players who bring in the alternative digital platforms.
And talking of those alternative digital platforms, do you think that the banking industry have a concrete understanding of the market, of what the market needs? Because those digital apps have got quite a number of, quite a big chunk of the market, while at the same time, when you compare the rates, really, it does not make sense that Kenyans are running for these exorbitant rates compared to the regulated and lower rates in the banking industry. Do you think that the banking sector has a good grasp of the market?
And I think that's where partnerships come in. That's where leveraging comes in, because the fintechs have been able to create a product that is convenient and attractive to the customer, but the banks have the basic skill and knowledge of how to provide that service. So now it's an issue of leveraging on each other, on your strengths, and then be able to combine and create a product that effectively serves both ends to the customer. So the customer seamlessly sees a product that not only is affordable, but also is convenient for the needs of the customer. And that can only come through the partnerships that we're talking about. So you can either see going forward banks acquiring the fintechs, or creating some partnership where the fintech and the banks leverage on each other to then have either a joint venture or something that can then be able to provide a service to the customer. But the way forward is those partnerships.
Those partnerships.
Yes.
And when you talked about the digital platforms becoming maybe a permanent structure in the banking sector, is there more than just the digital bit that will remain permanent in the sector that has been occasioned by COVID-19?
Oh yes. Right now, I think when you see how things are evolving, banks are being forced to either get into those partnerships or create units that will then be able to do the innovation internally and test those products to the convenience of the customer, and then churn them out within within the bank itself. So I see going forward a lot of investment into those platforms by banks. The more you invest, the more likely it is that you'll be able to get the market share of the customer.
Right.
And get the customer's wallet. Because as you mentioned, we can see a lot of the products that are available in the market currently. One, they are expensive, while banks are able to provide the same product, but cheaper only if they leverage on each other. So it's an issue of either invest in the innovation, incur the cost, and then be able to leverage on that to be able to get the customer coming in.
That is quite important. So as we come to a close, what are your closing remarks?
I think I see the banks have really come in very strongly, especially during this period of the COVID-19, and unlike, against all expectations, I think banks have really shown that they are there and they are there for the customer. Against all odds, have been able to quickly, with agility, be able to quickly turn around and be able to provide solutions to the customers. And I think going forward, it's those banks that will be able to quickly read the market and change, adapting to the needs of the customer, that will be able to move on and acquire the market share.
The more dynamic you are, the better for you.
The better it is for you.
Right. Thank you very much, Daktari, for speaking with us.
Thank you.
That is Dr. Habil Olaka, the CEO in charge of Kenya Bankers Association, giving us a picture of the state of the banking industry, how COVID-19 has affected the sector, as well as the contribution of the sector to the economy moving forward beyond COVID-19. We move on now to other news. Now, when Regina Nderito retired as a teacher in 2016, she ventured into horticulture farming, which she later found out was an expensive venture. Nderito then decided to try mint farming in her 6-acre piece of land, and she says her earnings have more than doubled due to a ready market and has managed to generate more job opportunities from the revenue.
Mint farming is set to gain ground in the country, though a section of farmers export 30 tons of the crop to the Netherlands and United Kingdom during the high season. One such farmer who was taken into mint farming is a retired teacher, Regina Nderito. Nderito, who was once a horticulture farmer, substituted mint for vegetables due to the high cost of production with minimal returns. She says herb farming is much more profitable and less labor intensive.
Had so many challenges when I was doing the vegetables because the market could flood. And again, there was a lot of work. You have to get engaged every day. You come early in the morning, you leave very late in the evening, and it is like you don't have that strength.
From an acre of vegetables, Nderito would make around 120,000 shillings in 4 months, compared to an average of 260,000 shillings a month she makes from mint production.
But now when I have come to mint, I think the prices, the profit is a bit higher. You can get for an acre between 200 and 260.
Mint is used as herbal medicine used to cure indigestion, manufacturing of chewing gum, and dressing of fish and chicken meat in hotels.
Looking at the global market for what we call botanicals, that includes the herbs, we've seen a progressive growth in that. And of course, post-COVID, as we build back stronger, it is important for us to bring in all this diversity of crops to give us the minerals, to give us the vitamins, to help us improve our immune system, and to help us then overcome any challenges that we may be facing in our nutrition.
European Union and United Nations Industrial Development Organization Market Access Upgrade Funded Program is carrying out training to farmers on proper mint husbandry to enable farmers to produce quality products that can fetch more in the international market.
The project aims to support SMEs and small-scale growers and other actors in the value chain who are involved in the export value chain to ensure that they comply to the standards and market regulations that are required by buyers in EU and other parts of the world.
Kenyans have been advised to take up growing of such high-value crops to diversify their agriculture earnings. Benson Rioba reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Now, Kenya defied a tough global economic environment to boost its export base by 20 billion shillings in the first 8 months of this year. Data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics indicates Kenya's export stood at 423 billion shillings, up from 420 billion shillings in 2019. The United Kingdom, Pakistan, Netherlands and Uganda were the top 5 markets for Kenyan products.
Food and beverages such as tea, coffee, fruits and vegetables accounted for the largest share of exports, while non-food industry exports accounted for a small part of the total exports. The second and third quarter have been challenging for the global economy, pierced by the stinging pandemic that has upended lifestyle and disrupted the global supply chain. However, despite the harsh business and economic hardships, Kenya's export market remains strong, growing by 20 billion shillings in the months to August 2020. Statistics from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics indicate that exports grew from 420 billion shillings in the same period in 2019 to 423 billion shillings a similar period this year. The top export markets for Kenyan goods were Pakistan, Uganda, United Kingdom, Netherlands and Rwanda. On the other hand, imports into the country in the first 8 months of 2020 decreased by 10% to 1.053 trillion shillings from 1.18 trillion shillings the year before. The decline in the value of imports can be attributed to the disruptions caused by COVID-19 pandemic. Non-food industry supplies were the top import goods, while food and beverages formed the smallest share of imports. China and India were the major imports for Kenya in the period under review, with China shipping in goods worth 227 billion shillings from January to August 2020, a drop from 232 billion shillings worth of imports in the same period in 2019.
The government has called on border communities to take advantage of the one-stop border post to boost international trade and the region's economy. The Principal Secretary of East African Community, Dr. Kivit Desai, said communities like those living along the border town of Isibania have an opportunity to lift the country's economy to recover from economic depression which was occasioned by COVID-19.
According to statistics, imports from Uganda to Kenya dropped in August due to border delays and reduced economic activities in the wake of COVID-19. The Uganda Bureau of Statistics showed that Uganda exports to Kenya stood at 5.1 billion shillings as of August 2020, a slight decline from 5.2 billion shillings the same period last year. To this end, despite COVID fears along the border towns, economic restoration of the regions is a priority to the government.
We have reacted as the government as best as we could by ensuring that as we progressed with the disease, and indeed it was an uncertain situation, that we ensured that we not only met healthcare regulations, but that we tried as best as possible to harmonize these.
Speaking at Isebania town during a consultative meeting with the local business community, the Principal Secretary of East African Community, Dr. Kivit Desai, said there is need for the country's economy to recover from the economic depression which was caused by COVID-19.
The call to all the traders that existed here, including all the stakeholders, which included the private sector, the county government, the national government, as well as all the different agencies that are part and parcel of trade, were present. And the objective was to ensure that everyone appreciates the important role that OSBPs play in the innovation of trade.
He added that the government has set aside 1 billion shillings towards the construction of East African border market at Isebania crossing point. The PS said once completed, the market will not only boost cross-border trade, but also enhance value addition of perishable goods. On his part, Migori Governor Okoth Obado called on the government to restore security in Lake Victoria, which has threatened the fishing industry.
Usipotoa samaki unapigwa. We must not allow those things to take place.
Alanaoko, Channel 1 Business.
Now, internationally, Virgin Australia Chief Executive Paul Skura will step down once the airline is transferred to the new owner, Bain Capital. The decision follows reports that he disagreed with Bain over the future direction of the airline. Virgin Australia went into voluntary administration in April before the US private equity group bought it. Details of these and more in our international business roundup.
The airline struggled under travel bans imposed by the Australian government due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Bain agreed to buy the struggling airline in June, and the deal is expected to be complete by early November. Jane Handlicker, a former head of rivals Qantas budget carrier Jetstar, will take over the top job when the deal is complete. According to media reports, Skura had clashed with Bain over plans to make it a low-cost carrier. He had reportedly wanted to maintain a more premium offering than the new owners. The disagreement could also raise tensions with the main union representing Virgin Australia workers, who were worried a plan for a budget carrier might mean fewer jobs. Elsewhere, shares of the Big Hit Entertainment more than doubled the initial public offering price on debut. Big Hit is a management agency of BTS, the massively popular 7-member K-pop group. The debut is the biggest in 3 years on Korea's Kospi Exchange and will make Big Hit's chief executive a billionaire. The band members will also become multimillionaires. It comes despite concerns that the band will soon have to do military service. Big Hit shares opened at 270,000 Korean won, giving the company a valuation of $8.38 billion at the opening bell. Finally, the European Union is about to formally reject a UK plea for special allowances for exports of electric cars in a post-Brexit deal. A draft edition of the deal says electric and hybrid cars will only get zero tariffs if a majority of the parts value is from the two areas. The draft means that even if there's a deal, some UK car exports to the EU will not be eligible. and this means tariffs of 10% will apply from January. Last month, the UK circulated a proposal that in the case of electric and hybrid cars, only a minority of parts would at first need to be either from the UK or the EU, and up to 70% could come from elsewhere.
Now back home, the University of Nairobi has ruled out payment of allowances to clinical officers who have deserted duty. The university's Vice-Chancellor, Professor Stephen Kiama, said a number of rogue officers at the university have been earning a salary for work they have not done. Professor Kiama says the university had received information from the Kenyatta National Hospital that a number of its doctors at the facility were not reporting to work yet, earning a salary which amounts to corruption.
The University of Nairobi has rolled out any payments to clinical officers who have absconded duty at the Kenyatta National Hospital. According to the university's Vice-Chancellor, Professor Stephen Kiama, over 50 officers have been put on notice for allegedly earning salaries for work not done.
I want to confirm to you and everyone here this evening that the university commits itself to pay clinical allowances, which is in addition to the salaries that members of staff receives. We are committed to pay because this is in the terms of service for staff, and we have been paying and we will continue to pay, and that one will not ever fail. But anybody who thinks that he can be paid clinical allowance without going to treat patients, that one, nobody can do such a thing.
The VC said the university has started the process of scrutinizing the payroll of over 252 clinical officers, and those who will be found to have engaged in the unethical process will be suspended and forced to refund the money.
But if you are paid by mistake, then we say you return the money. Because if you don't want to offer clinical service, you want to be running your own clinic, you don't want to treat Kenyans, those who are in Kenyatta who are poor, you want to treat the rich ones. Now, how can I help now?
He said he will not be cowed by individuals who are trying to intimidate him on his stand to instill professionalism.
This culture we cannot allow, where people shout at others, call others names, intimidate others in this university. This university is a scholarship place where people argue and discuss issues, and the people say, this one has a point, this one does not have a point.
Professor Kiama said the Kenyatta National Hospital had notified the university of a number of clinical officers who are charged with the responsibility of treating patients, yet have not reported to work.
That there are people who are not attending to the clinic. It is Kenyatta National Hospital, you know that, which informed us. And yet, the teachers and the students knew that these people are not coming. In fact, so many teachers, so many students called me saying they thought that that is how it is supposed to happen.
This even as Kenya Medical Practitioners, Dentists and Pharmacists Union joined to UASU strike, calling on its members to down their tools. Timothy Kipnusu for Channel 1 News.
In the counties, the government has set aside 5.6 billion shillings that will benefit 6 ASAL counties, among them Samburu. The aim of the program is to improve food security in arid areas, especially those that were affected by COVID-19 pandemic. More from our county news roundup.
In a move geared towards improving food security in Samburu County, the government has set aside 5.6 billion shillings that will benefit 6 ASAL counties. Area Deputy County Commissioner John Otieno said that the project will improve food security in semi-arid areas and will help in food security for the affected residents.
Today, we are flagging off farm inputs and seedlings that are going to targeted beneficiaries. A number of groups have been identified that are going to benefit from these farm inputs and seedlings. The aim is to improve the livelihood of these vulnerable persons within the society, and also to boost the immunity or the immune system of our people who were affected by the COVID-19.
Meanwhile, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights is training Kenya Forest Service officers on how to uphold human rights during the ongoing evictions across Kenya's forests. This is after a program sponsored by the United Nations Development Program established that some of the eviction exercises had been marred by cases of inhumane acts.
There will be more community participation in the forest management, and where evictions have to take place, then the communities would have prior information on what the evictions are all about and what they need to do in terms of preparations, and of course citing the various sources of law that KFS would use to evict people from the forests.
And residents of Kitui and Makueni counties are excited about future economic prospects of the region due to what they termed as beneficial progress in the ongoing construction of Kitui-Kibwezi Road. Recarpeting of the road began in 2016 at a cost of 18 billion shillings, and so far residents of the two counties are enjoying ease of transport.
Hii barabara tumeitumia wakati wa mchanga. Ilikuwa ukitoka hapa asubuhi ukienda Kitui unachukua kama karibu masaa 5. Unapika trip moja kwenda na kurudi unalala. Lakini saa hii ukitoka hapa ukienda Kitui unachukua kama 45 minutes.
Elsewhere, Migori Area Governor Okoth Obado has differed with Area and County Commissioner Boaz Cherutich over COVID-19 regulations. Obado, who was speaking in Isebania border during a stakeholders meeting attended by the county commissioner, said COVID-19 has been contained in Migori County and therefore people can walk freely without masks. But the county commissioner urged locals to ignore the governor's advisory warning that COVID-19 is still a threat and people must adhere to measures outlined by the government.
Mheshimiwa Governor amesema COVID imeisha. Nasema COVID iko na ile masharti ambayo iko tutafuata.
Finally, drivers plying the Ntulele Narok East Road have been urged to be careful to avoid rampant accidents along the route. The warning came after 4 people lost their lives in an accident that involved a lorry and a public service vehicle.
Inaonekana kuna kwamba madereva ni walegevu na wako na stress kwa sababu wajakaa ni kama wajui kudhibiti gari size. Madereva wote wao ni walegevu sana na hasa wafanyi ile sheria ambayo inataka. Na tunataka kuwaonya kwamba wajue mambo sasa si vile itakavyo kuwa tena kwa ujao wa kesho.
Let's do the sports now. 2017 London Marathon champion Daniel Wanjiru has been slapped with a 4-year ban by the World Athletics Disciplinary Tribunal for violation of the athlete's biological passport, ABP, an anti-doping offense. This means he will be banned until December 2023, while his results since March 9th last year, which include 11th place in the 2019 London Marathon, have also been disqualified. The 27-year-old who beat Kenenisa Bekele to the 2017 London Marathon title has a marathon personal best of 2 hours, 5 minutes and 21 seconds set when winning the Amsterdam Marathon in 2016. He becomes the 11th Kenyan to be handed a ban for doping offences this year alone. Across borders, Kylian Mbappe scored the winner as France kept up their unbeaten Nations League record by beating Croatia 2-1 in a repeat of the 2018 World Cup final. Meanwhile, England lost 1-0 to Denmark, while Belgium claimed a 2-1 win over Iceland.
Cleared only as far as Griezmann. Oh, wonderful finish for the French, and they're in front already.
Inside, but he goes on the outside. Cross isn't brilliant. The clearance is a poor one. Straight to Griezmann. Strikes it brilliantly off the post.
An option now. This is Brekalo. Also stepping off the bench. Oh, and it's into the corner from Vlasic. Wonderful finish. And the equalising goal. The Croatian change very short.
Well, that marks the end of Business Insight this evening. Many thanks for staying with us until the tail end. Remember that after this bulletin, you shall be getting the weather update with Irene Muchuma Odem. My name is Betty Kiptum. Lensa Odingo has been my colleague on the sign language interpretation. Thank you for watching. Have yourself a good night. Bye-bye.
Good evening. I hope you're well today. Indeed, it's time for us to find out how weather patterns are unfolding here in the home country. My name is Irene Mchuma Odem. It is one of those nights that most parts of the country have been covered with scattered wet conditions, but there are partly cloudy conditions over the northern parts of the country and the southeastern lowlands, and that is how the night will be. This as Eldoret and Kericho towns are the coldest tonight. Temperatures stand at 12 degrees Celsius. These are temperatures that are manageable as much as they are the coldest towns tonight. Tomorrow, residents in Kisumu, you'll wake up to a different weather from what you had today. There'll be rains in the county of Kisumu. There'll also be rains in Eldoret and Kitale during the morning hours. And also in the capital, expect light rains and cloudy weather conditions, and this will also affect counties around the region, including Machakos, Nyeri, and Meru. The coastal strip will mainly be sunny, but in Mombasa, there will be showers over a few places. The northern parts of the country will mainly experience sunny intervals during the morning hours, and that will stretch towards the afternoon. But for you in Kisumu, Kakamega, Bungoma, Eldoret, Kericho, expect showers accompanied by thunderstorms. The coastal strip will continue to experience sunny intervals, but Mombasa will continue to experience showers during the afternoon hours. The capital will mainly be sunny, but later on in the evening there will be showers in Nairobi, Meru, Nyeri, and Machakos areas, and these will affect a few areas in the region. The southeastern lowlands, most parts will continue to experience sunny intervals. Let's have a look at temperatures, and this is it. Mandera will experience the highest at 37 degrees Celsius. Nairobi will experience highs of 27 degrees Celsius. And for you in Kisumu, we will do highs of 29 degrees Celsius. And on that note, let's now cross the borders and have a look at the international forecast. Do have a good night. See you tomorrow. God willing.